The WNBA just made the biggest mistake in league history, and Stephen A. Smith is absolutely losing his mind about it. While Caitlin Clark sits at home nursing an injury that nobody saw coming, Angel Reese is out here posting vacation photos pretending her wrist is still hurt, and the entire league is watching their viewership numbers crater faster than a meteor hitting Earth. What Stephen A. just exposed about this whole situation has the basketball world in complete chaos, and once you hear what he said about Angel Reese specifically, you'll understand why she might never recover from this. Before we dive into Stephen A.'s explosive rant that has everyone talking, if you think Caitlin Clark deserves better treatment from the league, smash that like button right now and let me know in the comments who you think is the real face of the WNBA. Here's what nobody's talking about yet. January 2025 should have been the month where the WNBA finally announced their massive new TV deal, their expansion plans, everything they've been building toward with Caitlin Clark as their centerpiece. Instead, they're scrambling to explain why their golden goose is sitting on the sidelines, while players like Angel Reese are mysteriously extending their own injury timelines. Stephen A. Smith didn't just call this out, he went nuclear on live television, and what he revealed about the behind-the-scenes drama is absolutely shocking. The timing couldn't be more suspicious. Just as Caitlin Clark was about to break another record, suddenly she's dealing with an injury that multiple sources are saying could have been prevented if the refs actually protected her from the constant physical abuse she's been taking. Stephen A. pointed out something that made everyone's jaw drop. In the last 15 games before her injury, Clark was fouled hard at least 47 times with 0 flagrant fouls called. That's not basketball, that's targeted harassment, and Stephen A. has the receipts to prove it. But that wasn't even the most shocking part of his rant. What really set him off was Angel Reese's latest social media stunt. While claiming she needs more time to recover from her wrist injury, she was spotted at a Miami nightclub doing bottle service and dancing without any visible discomfort. Stephen A. didn't hold back, calling it, quote, the most transparent attempt at attention seeking he's ever seen in professional sports, unquote. The way he broke down the timeline of her posts versus her injury reports had everyone realizing she's been playing the victim card while secretly celebrating Clark's absence. The numbers Stephen A. presented were absolutely devastating for the WNBA. Games featuring Caitlin Clark this season averaged 1.2 million viewers. Games without her barely cracked 300,000. That's not just a drop, that's a complete collapse. He pulled up the receipts from every single nationally televised game, and the pattern was undeniable. Clark equals ratings. No Clark equals nobody cares. And here's the kicker that nobody expected. Stephen A. revealed that 3 major sponsors are already threatening to pull out if Clark doesn't return soon. What happened next on the show was pure television gold. When they brought up Angel Reese's recent podcast appearance where she claims she's the real reason people watch the WNBA, Stephen A. literally laughed out loud. He pulled up her shooting percentages, her turnover rates, and most embarrassingly, her social media engagement compared to Clark's. The difference was so massive that even Reese's biggest supporters on the panel went silent. He didn't just expose her, he completely dismantled every argument she's ever made about deserving equal attention. The Commissioner Kathy Engelbert situation is where things get really messy. Stephen A. revealed something that the league has been desperately trying to keep quiet. Apparently, there was a closed-door meeting in early January where multiple team owners demanded better protection for star players, specifically mentioning Clark. Engelbert's response was so weak that one owner allegedly walked out of the meeting. Stephen A. has sources telling him that if viewership doesn't improve by February, there could be serious discussions about finding new leadership. But here's where Stephen A. really went off. He brought up how the WNBA Players Association has been completely silent about protecting their biggest draw. While they're quick to defend players who complain about travel conditions or salary disputes, they haven't said a single word about the targeting of Caitlin Clark. Stephen A. called it what it is, pure jealousy disguised as solidarity. He even named names, pointing out specific players who have been the most physical with Clark while simultaneously complaining about not getting enough media attention. The Angel Reese situation got even more embarrassing when Stephen A. pulled up her recent Instagram Live where she accidentally revealed she's been in contact with multiple media outlets trying to spin her injury story. She thought she ended the stream but kept talking for 30 seconds about how she needs to, quote, make sure people don't forget about her while Caitlin's out, unquote. Stephen A. played the clip 3 times, each time pointing out another lie she got caught in. The panel was speechless, and social media absolutely exploded. What really sealed the deal was when Stephen A. brought out the financial impact report. The Indiana Fever's merchandise sales are up 400% since Clark joined. The Chicago Sky with Angel Reese saw a modest 20% increase. Every single metric Stephen A. presented showed the same story. Clark is carrying this league on her back, and instead of protecting their investment, they're letting jealous players and incompetent officials run her into the ground. The most shocking revelation came when Stephen A. discussed his conversation with a former WNBA legend who asked to remain anonymous. This person told him that there's an unspoken agreement among certain players to, quote, put Clark in her place, unquote, through physical play. Stephen A. was visibly disgusted as he described how this Hall of Famer basically admitted that the league's old guard resents Clark's instant success and popularity. He called it the most pathetic display of professional jealousy he's witnessed in 30 years of covering sports. Then came the bombshell about Sophie Cunningham that nobody saw coming. Stephen A. revealed that Cunningham has been one of the only players consistently speaking up in team meetings about protecting star players and growing the game properly. She's been pushing for rule changes that would prevent the kind of targeting Clark has faced, and guess what happened? She's been getting frozen out by certain veteran players who see her as a, quote, traitor to the sisterhood, unquote. Stephen A. praised her courage and called out the hypocrisy of players who claim to want the league to grow while actively sabotaging its biggest stars. The conversation then shifted to what happens next, and Stephen A.'s prediction was brutal. He straight up said that if the WNBA doesn't get its act together by the All-Star break, they're looking at a viewership disaster that could set the league back a decade. He mentioned that streaming services are already reconsidering their deals, and 2 major networks have requested meetings about potentially reducing their WNBA coverage. The league that was finally breaking through to mainstream relevance is about to throw it all away because of petty jealousy and incompetent leadership. Angel Reese's team tried to do damage control by releasing a statement about her injury, but Stephen A. wasn't having it. He pointed out that the medical report they provided was dated 3 weeks ago, while she's been posting workout videos as recently as yesterday. He called it amateur hour and suggested that maybe she should spend less time trying to be an influencer and more time actually learning how to shoot better than 39% from the field. The real tea came when Stephen A. brought up the Rookie of the Year race from last season. He revealed that multiple voters have privately admitted they felt pressured to not vote for Clark unanimously because it would, quote, look bad for the league's diversity, unquote. Stephen A. was absolutely furious about this, pointing out that merit should be the only factor and that this kind of thinking is exactly what's holding the WNBA back. He didn't mince words, calling it reverse discrimination that ultimately hurts everyone. What made this even more explosive was when Stephen A. compared the treatment of Caitlin Clark to how the NBA treated Magic Johnson and Larry Bird when they saved that league. He pointed out that the NBA protected its stars, marketed them properly, and let their rivalry naturally develop without all the behind-the-scenes nonsense. The WNBA, on the other hand, is actively sabotaging its own success story. He called Engelbert and the leadership team, quote, catastrophically incompetent, unquote, and suggested that if this was any other business, they'd all be fired by now. The panel tried to push back, suggesting that maybe the criticism was too harsh, but Stephen A. came with more receipts. He showed clip after clip of hard fouls on Clark that went uncalled, compared them to similar plays where other players got immediate flagrants, and the bias was undeniable. Even the biggest WNBA defenders on the panel had to admit that something wasn't right. Stephen A. then dropped another bomb, revealing that Clark's camp has been documenting every incident and might be considering legal action if the league doesn't step up protection. But here's where it gets really interesting. Stephen A. mentioned that he's heard from multiple sources that several top college players are reconsidering entering the WNBA draft because of how Clark has been treated. They're seeing that talent and marketability don't guarantee fair treatment, and some are exploring overseas options instead. If true, this could be catastrophic for the league's future. The very players who could help build on Clark's momentum are being scared away by the league's own dysfunction. The Angel Reese comparison got even more brutal when Stephen A. pulled up their head-to-head stats. In every single matchup, Clark outperformed Reese in points, assists, and efficiency. The only category Reese led in was rebounds, and Stephen A. pointed out that half of those were from her own missed shots. He literally said, quote, if missing shots and grabbing your own rebounds made you a superstar, every gym in America would have one, unquote. The burn was so savage that even people who don't follow basketball were sharing the clip. Stephen A. then addressed the elephant in the room that everyone thinks but nobody says out loud, the racial component of the Clark criticism. He was very careful but direct, saying that while he understands the historical context of why some players might feel overlooked, using race as an excuse to target and diminish Clark's achievements is not only wrong but counterproductive. He pointed out that Clark has done nothing but praise her predecessors and teammates, and that turning this into a racial issue only divides fans and hurts the league's growth. The conversation took an unexpected turn when Stephen A. brought up international viewership numbers. Apparently, Caitlin Clark games are huge in Europe and Asia, markets the WNBA has been trying to crack for years. Her absence is not just hurting domestic ratings, but destroying the league's global expansion plans. Stephen A. had emails from international broadcasters expressing concern about their investments if Clark isn't playing. One executive apparently said they bought WNBA rights specifically for Clark content, and without her, they want to renegotiate. What really sent shockwaves through the basketball world was when Stephen A. revealed that he's heard whispers about Clark potentially exploring options outside the WNBA if things don't improve. While he emphasized these are just rumors, the fact that it's even being discussed shows how badly the league has fumbled this situation. He mentioned that international leagues would pay massive money for Clark, and honestly, who could blame her for considering it after the treatment she's received? The final nail in the coffin came when Stephen A. addressed Angel Reese directly through the camera. He told her that riding Caitlin Clark's coattails while simultaneously trying to undermine her is the most transparent and pathetic thing he's seen in professional sports. He suggested that instead of fake injuries and social media stunts, maybe she should work on her free throw percentage that's sitting at an embarrassing 62%. The way he delivered it was so cold that even his co-host looked uncomfortable. As the segment wrapped up, Stephen A. made one final point that everyone needs to hear. The WNBA has a once-in-a-generation opportunity with Caitlin Clark. She's bringing in new fans, new money, and new relevance to a league that's struggled for decades. If they continue to let petty jealousy and incompetent leadership destroy this opportunity, they deserve every empty arena and canceled TV deal that's coming their way. He ended by saying that this isn't about one player versus another, it's about the survival of the league itself. If you agree that the WNBA needs to protect its stars and stop the jealousy drama, hit that subscribe button right now and comment below with your thoughts on whether Angel Reese is really injured or just seeking attention. The basketball world is watching, and what happens next could determine the entire future of women's professional basketball in America.